The Russian Federation is actually in quite a unique position. I know that Russia's leaders want to wean the economy away from overdependence on oil and gas, but while that dependence exists, it's actually a lever for Russia to create an alliance structure economically that can save Russia, really, because since the end of the Cold War, NATO has had, and the Pentagon has had one single goal, and that is to absolutely destroy Russia as a sovereign nation state, as a functioning resistance pole, together with China today, to what some people in America call the New World Order. So I think the Russian oil economic dependency can be used as a transition. And what Russia brings to the table, I think many leading figures in and around President Putin perhaps don't even realize the full extent of this, but Russian scientists, geophysicists, geochemists, and the like, during the Cold War, developed an alternative theory of the origins of hydrocarbons, oil and gas, even of fresh water under the earth. And those theories can be used as an asset by Russia to literally bring Russia into the 22nd century, not just the 21st century. That's a complicated subject matter, but I think the oil dependency actually can be seen as an oil advantage. And if it's seen that way, it can be used very positively for Russia. The protests after the elections, which brought Putin back as president more than a year ago, approximately a year ago, they very clearly, and I wrote about this at the time, they very clearly were being nourished and nurtured and financially fed by NGOs controlled by Washington. That's a matter of documented fact, including Navalny, one of the most popular of the so-called opposition people. The case of the anarchist collective, so-called Pussy Riot, that's an extremely difficult case. I spent quite a bit of time researching it at the time because I felt it important to make a political statement about what that was all about. And in the end of the day, I put the notes aside and never wrote anything because it goes so deeply into the human character in terms of blasphemy, in terms of degradation of the human spirit and so forth, what was done in the cathedral in Moscow by these punkers. It's not a punk band. There are no musicians, as far as I know, among them. But that, I'm fairly certain, if the full truth were to come out, would also be exposed as something that was encouraged from outside Russia. That being said, I think the government has handled the situation extremely clumsily and has lost more face than they've gained more face. Had they acted strongly against the arrested women of the Pussy Riot, and then had the president intervene with clemency, given the fact that one of them was a young mother with the children at home and so forth, but simply to show clemency and mercy, I think they would have judoed this whole world media attack fabulously. Instead, they played into the profile of these are typical Stalinist Russian hardline with the hard club and so forth, beating down any social protest. And I think a lot of young Russians felt really sick to their stomach about the way their government handled it. That didn't need to have been. That could have had a much more positive effect had a softer hand been shown. The destabilization is the fact that the West, especially Washington, does not want a functioning, effective presidency in Russia that can counter the attempts to take the nuclear teeth out of the Russian bear. And Putin is someone they consider quite formidable in this regard. So that's the background, as I've written many times, also the background to the Arab Spring. There it's directed more against the oil pipeline or the oil supply lines of China. but it has a geopolitical background, and it's been financed, funded, and supported by the Obama administration, and using countries like France as the subcontractors, if you will.